Yo, what's up, guys? It's Ben10clem here, back with another video on the Ben10clem poll week 9. Had to re-record this because I messed up a little bit. But, yeah, here we go. Oregon staying at number 1 for us. Not moving them. They had a great game against Purdue and blew them out on Friday. It was 35-0. Second, we got the biggest game of the weekend was Georgia at Texas. Georgia took care of business and won 30-15. I was expecting Texas to win, but I was disappointed. I mean, Georgia's QB didn't look great either. So, I mean, I don't know. But they're going to 2. And I'll show you guys last week's real quick. Here you go. This is last week's. Georgia last week was pretty good. But we have that there. So we have Penn State at 3 when last week they were last week they were 4, so they move up 1. Ohio State moves up 2, putting them back in the top 4. Texas dropped, obviously, because they lost to Georgia, but did not drop them much. That's their first loss. Yet it was a pretty devastating one. They're going to 5. LSU is at 6 for me. They took care of Arkansas at Arkansas, 34-10. They had a good game. Number 7, Clemson. Number 8, Miami. Clemson played Virginia, and it shouldn't have been that close. Part of me wanted to put Clemson below Miami this time, but this might be a little biased, but I'm keeping Clemson where they're at, and I'm also keeping Miami where they're at. Miami still, in my eyes, should be a 2-loss team, but they're undefeated. They got bailed out by the refs. I will say that every damn week. Remind y'all every week. Alabama at Tennessee was another big game that was played. Tennessee ended up winning 24-17. They move up 4 spots. They were 13th. They're now number 9. So, and there's also a team that dropped down. So we'll talk about the people that are the biggest losers. Alabama dropped 6 spots. Iowa State dropped 3 after it was a win against UCF at home. It was a UCF at Iowa State. Iowa State won 38-35. It was a really close game. Probably shouldn't have been. So, I'm dropping them 3 points. They are still undefeated. They are 7-0. We got to keep that in mind. Notre Dame won their game against Georgia Tech. At Georgia Tech, 31-13. Took care of business. Kansas State took care of business again at West Virginia, 45-18, blowing them out. So they move up 1. And then one of the ones that kind of surprised me the most this game was Nebraska at Indiana. Indiana destroyed 56-7. Blew them out. I moved them up 4 spots. I had them at 16 last week. And then number 13 is Iowa State. I talked why I dropped them to number 13. It's because of UCF. It was a really close game when it shouldn't have been. You can't have that being a close game against an unranked school. Number 14, staying the same, is Texas A&M. Not moving. They had a close game, 10-point game against Mississippi State, 34-24. Not always. I haven't been super impressed with Texas A&M, but they're at 14. Alabama, 15. Can't drop them any lower than that. I really can't. They're not a terrible team. Maybe an inconsistent team. an inconsistent Alabama team, but they have weapons on defense and offense. They could definitely come back and step up and get into the playoffs. Then we got BYU dropping down one after a very close game. It was Oklahoma State at BYU. BYU won barely, 38-35. So they're dropping one spot as well. Plus, I couldn't keep them at 15. I really couldn't. If Alabama played BYU 9 out of 10 times, Alabama would win. On neutral field, easily, without a doubt. And then Ole Miss not moving. Boise State not moving. Army not moving. Navy, I did move up 4 points because I feel like they are on equal level with Army. Because Army played Eastern Carolina 45-28. And then Navy beat Charlotte 51-17. They were both home games for Army and Navy. Can't wait to see them play week 15. They both do have strong opponents coming up soon. They will both end up playing Notre Dame in their regular season, so that's really going to test them. Army does have the number one offensive efficiency, so we'll see how that goes against Notre Dame's defense. Up next is Navy. Like we said, they move up 4 spots. Then we got Pitt moving up 4. Last week we had them at... last week we had Pitt at 25. They are now at 21. And then a new ranked team. We got SMU. SMU at 22. 23. Welcome back into the rankings, Illinois. Illinois ended up beating Michigan, which they still had ranked in the top 25. It was 24 versus 22. So Illinois, they were both ranked. Illinois won 21-7. And then I dropped Missouri again 2 spots, back down to 24. 2 weekends ago I had them at 24. Mississippi played Auburn at home. It was a home game for Missouri, and it was 21-17. It was a close game. I just... you can't have it being close games. You just can't. They have them at 19 in the AP poll, which is insane to me. Then welcome Duke to the top 25. There was a couple honorable mentions I did want to make, and that was being Memphis and Washington State were the 2 teams I wanted to mention as honorable mentions. If I had to put a 26th and the 27th, it would be Memphis at 26, Washington State at 27. I put Duke in there because I think they've had a little more impressive wins. So yeah. Now the people that dropped out of the top 25, Arizona State. I had them in the top 25. I had them at 20. Regret my decision. They ended up losing at Cincinnati 24-14. Not good. After beating Utah. And last week I had Utah at 21. Utah is now gone because they lost at home to TCU 13-7. So both those teams are out, and Nebraska is definitely out after getting blown out by Indiana. So that's your top 25. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look here at, I think we can bring it up here, Week 9 AP poll. So we can compare the two here. So our 1 through, literally our top 5 are identical. Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Penn State 3, Ohio State 4, Texas 5. That's identical. Now where things change up a little bit is when we get into the 6 through 10 range. I have LSU at 6. And then Clemson at 7. Miami at 8. Tennessee at 9. And Notre Dame at 10. They have at 6 Miami, Tennessee at 7. LSU at 8. Clemson at 9. Iowa State at 10. Then we get into the 11 through 15 mark. We got BYU. They have BYU at 11. I'm still not that high on BYU. I have them at 16. They have Notre Dame at 12, which I can understand that. And then they have Indiana at 13. I have Indiana at 12. Texas A&M at 14. Agree. And Alabama at 15. Agreed. Then we have next up, if we scroll up even more, here is 16 through 20. They have Kansas State at 16, which I think is criminally underrated. They are top 15 in my eyes. Boise State at 17. 18 is Ole Miss. 19 is Pitt. 20 is Illinois. Mine is 16 BYU, 17 Ole Miss, 18 Boise State, 19 Army, 20 Navy. And then the final bit here in their AP poll, they have at the 21 through 25 ranking, they have Missouri at 21, SMU at 22, Army at 23, Navy at 24, and Vanderbilt at 25. I feel like so many teams deserve to be at 25 more than Vanderbilt does. A.K. Duke, Memphis, Washington. Like, those teams, even Liberty, I think deserves to have a spot in the top 25. Like, I don't understand that. Those teams are undefeated. Except Duke. Like, it doesn't make sense to put a team that is 5-2, bring them up from not being ranked, and above even Syracuse, UNLV, Liberty, like, all those teams, they choose to bring Vanderbilt up. I understand they beat Alabama, but they're still not that strong of a team. They're not bad, but are they top 25 worthy? I think Washington State is more top 25 worthy. I think Syracuse is top 25 more worthy, and I think Duke is. UNLV, I wouldn't. Liberty, I'd put Memphis up in that list. I'd definitely put Memphis up there. Why Memphis isn't being talked about is insane to me. But that's the comparisons. We're going to move it back up. So the difference between these two here is we'll go ahead and shrink this down, and then move it like that. And then we'll increase the size of this, and there you go. So there you guys can see the difference between them all. I also like my graphic a lot better. I think it looks a lot better. You got the up and down arrows. You also got the dropped out of the top 25 list and the biggest losers. I think it's fun to keep an eye out on. There is going to be some good games that teams are going to have to compete with. Like, Oregon's going to have to play Illinois next week. Georgia's got a bye week. Penn State has to play at Wisconsin. Could be upset worthy. You never know. Ohio State versus Nebraska. Then we got Texas at Vanderbilt. Should be a good game. but I think Texas handles business pretty easily, sending Vanderbilt back down where they don't belong. Where they belong, not in the top 25. Miami plays Florida State at home. Tennessee is on a bye week. LSU has a good game again. Texas A&M, number 14. So on my list, it would be number 6 versus number 14. It's going to be a really good game. I'm curious to see how that one comes out. Clemson's on their bye week before they have to go play Louisville, which I'm going to that game. That's going to be a hell of a game. Next is we got Iowa State is also on a bye week. BYU will go and play at UCF. If BYU is not careful, they might end up losing to UCF. Because they had a close game against Oklahoma. And Iowa State had a close game against UCF. It could go wrong for BYU. And I could see BYU losing that game. Because Iowa State almost lost at home against UCF. BYU is going to UCF and playing. Personally, I'm hoping for an upset because I don't like BYU. I don't think they deserve to be super highly rated. If you go to the FPI, they're not there. They're just not. And let's see. Indiana plays Washington, and then Notre Dame next weekend plays Navy. That is where Navy's going to have to show up and say, listen, I can compete with the big dogs and play at a higher level. The 3 teams that don't use the transfer portal are Army, Navy, and Clemson. All those teams are ranked. So, shows you. They got talent. Alabama plays Missouri. You got mid versus super mid playing each other, in my opinion. Missouri probably will lose since it's at Alabama. Then Kansas State plays Kansas. Good little in-state rivalry there. I do have Kansas State winning that one. Boise State plays UNLV. I think that will be a good game. It's going to be interesting if UNLV can step up, win against Boise State. They have currently their number 1 in Heisman running back that is on pace to beat Barry Sanders' record, which is insane. Ole Miss will be playing Oklahoma. Pitt will be playing Syracuse, which I think is going to be a good game to watch. Because whoever wins that game, one will be going out of the top 25 and one will be coming in. Illinois at Oregon, we already talked about that. Missouri at Alabama, we talked about that. SMU at Duke is another game that's going to be interesting. I have SMU at 22 and Duke at 25. So I think it's going to be a really good game between those two. One of those teams is going to end up dropping out. Depends who. And then Vanderbilt, already talked about, is playing Texas. So there's our comparison between the AP poll top 25 week 9 and the Ben10clem poll top 25 week 9. I do hope y'all enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to seeing more football coming up. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Let me know if y'all agree or disagree down below. And like if you enjoy this content, and sub if you enjoy it even more. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.